Been a tough couple of weeks for Chicago, as we've learned, a tough couple of years. And Mayor Rahm Emanuel apologized earlier this week for last year's police-involved shooting death of Laquan McDonald. In a sometimes emotional speech before the City Council, he talked about police accountability, race relations, and called for a painful but honest reckoning of what went wrong.
I am the mayor. As I said the other day, I own it. I take responsibility for what happened because it happened on my watch. And if we're going to fix it, I want you to understand it's my responsibility with you. But if we're also going to begin the healing process, the first step in that journey is my step, and I'm sorry.
The contrite mayor talked about the need for reform and the steps he's taken in firing the police chief, appointing a head of the Independent Police Review Authority, and the need for the Justice Department investigation of the Chicago Police Department. But as evidenced by nationwide protests last year, the call for change in the way police brutality overall is addressed, not just a Chicago issue. Joining us today is Chief Greg Baker. He is the Regional Vice President for the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, or NOBLE. I want to welcome Chief Baker. Thanks so much for coming in. As a police officer, having served in several different suburban departments, with all the recent things that are going on involving police officers, what are you thinking? What are you feeling at home watching all of this?
Well, it's very upsetting and disappointing. Without a doubt, police in general, we have to change. When I started in policing, I remember how militaristic policing was, and we have to get away from the militaristic view of policing and get back to the basic community relations that policing is really all about.
Is that because of, it changed? When did it change?
I think the biggest change in policing occurred in 2001 when we were hit by terrorism, and that again made a significant change in the way we think, the way we enact with individuals, and of course we have to protect our citizens, but I think unfortunately that began a bad way of interacting with our citizens and our residents.
How does the police department change their relationship, the relations that they have with these citizens?
That's a great question, because that is without a doubt the most significant thing as law enforcement professionals today that we must do, we have to do. And what we have to do is build that relationship back. If you read the President's 21st Century report on policing, one of the first pillars he talks about and the committee talked about was building the trust and legitimacy back of law enforcement. We have to have that trust of the community.
How do you build that back, and what role should the citizens play in that?
It's about communication, it's about transparency. We have to communicate with the people that we serve. And in my community, instead of calling citizens and residents those terms, they're our customers. That's what people are. Yeah.
What do the citizens have to do, though? Don't they is there the onus on them in any way?
Well, yes. I mean, they have to be willing, to listen to the expert opinions that we have, but vice versa. We have to be willing to hear what they're saying.
A lot of people are saying it has a lot to do with race relations. A lot of this is happening, from what we've seen, to black young men.
Yes.
And most of it are white or Latino police officers who are doing it against the black men, from what we're seeing. Is it race relations, or is it a power trip? Is it a power thing on the police department?
There's not one specific answer to that. It's a combination of things. The bottom line is we need diversity in our ranks. It's going to be difficult, as shown in Ferguson, Missouri, that an literally all-white police force can be successful and communicate well, with a literally all African-American community. That's not the way the United States and our communities are supposed to be. We've got to be diverse. We've got to be able to communicate with one another and understand the cultures. And in order to do that, we have to have the same amount of officers, literally, depicted as in that neighborhood that we're serving.
You keep saying transparency. Are you okay with these videos being let out to the public? Is that a part of the transparency?
I'm okay with it. I think one of the issues is transparency is all about seeing and viewing. If there's a perception that something is not right or that something is being hid, that's going to make it even worse. And that's what we've seen that have occurred, over these last few years in places all around the country.
Where do we place the blame? The mayor apologizing, firing Gary McCarthy, police superintendent, the justices. Where do we place the blame?
Well, police officers, law enforcement in general, have to own up to what they haven't been doing, and that's communicating and making a difference in the community. And also, the residents, citizens, but more importantly, our customers have to be willing to bridge that gap with us too, because we cannot be successful in law enforcement without that customer care.
As a law enforcement agency, have you found, in light of recent incidents, that there's a target on your back? I mean, how have you been treated by citizens because of all this?
Well, I can honestly say, some criticism that I've received is based on mere perception. And that's a communication issue that I think we in law enforcement can help break down.
Yeah.
We have to mend that broken.
Can it be done, you think? Can
Oh,
it be done?
It not only can it be done, it must be done for us to be successful.
All right. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate you coming in. You're with South Holland Police Department, we should say.
Yes.
Appreciate it. For more information on the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, visit noblenational.org.